This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The aura on these two people made everyone feel a kind of terrifying feeling, and they didn't even dare to look at them directly. Zhang Xiaotian was covered in cold sweat. He was afraid that the two would suddenly kill him. He quickly recalled his soul's slave. As the two superpowers of the Western region, Myriad Stars Valley and the Soul Devourer clan coexisted peacefully on the surface. However, they had been fighting in secret for many years. They had killed countless disciples of the other party, but they controlled it in the dark to avoid large-scale conflicts that no one could bear. So many pieces of trash are here? Che Shuyao's eyes were cold as he looked around. His gaze lingered on Zhang Xiaotian and his junior brother for a few seconds, making the two shiver. Except for Ngu Duangyu, everyone seems to be here. Feng Yi looked around and asked suspiciously, "What's with this space? I feel like there's some sort of restriction that's suppressing our origin energy." Oh. Che Shuyao's expression changed and he said in a serious tone, "That's right, it's being suppressed. However, the power of regulation is still present, and it can be condensed." Feng Yi said, "The power of laws is the power of this world. As long as it exists in this world, it will exist. No array formation can suppress the laws of heaven and earth." He looked down with an arrogant expression and said proudly, "Do you know what this place is?" Everyone's faces were solemn and silent. No one made a sound. All of a sudden, the entire space began to change, and everyone's hearts trembled. The grid lines on the chessboard emitted a bright green light, and stars began to appear in the sky, as if they were in the universe. The stars grew brighter and brighter, slowly approaching from far away, and actually falling towards the chessboard. Everyone was shocked. The two martial sovereigns from the 10,000 Stars Valley had an even uglier expression. They suddenly realized that they were completely bound, and they couldn't even condense the rules of heaven and earth. The entire chessboard was filled with a strange power that made them unable to resist at all. The stars falling from the sky were getting closer and closer. At this time, they were shocked to find that they were not stars, but chess pieces. The chess pieces were black and white in color, falling like stars. Every piece fell on the grid line of the chessboard, shaking out the power of the stars. The entire chessboard was like a vast starry sky, and everyone felt as if they were in the Milky Way of the universe. At this moment, only a wisp of consciousness was left, and they were so dizzy that they didn't know what to think. Soon, the sky returned to darkness, and hundreds of black and white chess pieces of various sizes appeared on the glowing chessboard, arranged in a certain pattern. At this moment, everyone realized that they were surrounded by a green light, slowly rising into the sky and floating in the air. They could not use any strength. Even Che Shuyao and Feng Yi were the same. This Go arrangement is a kasaya. Tang Jia, who had been knocked out by Yunxiao's punch, woke up and looked at the chess game below. The Heaven and Earth chessboard. The Heaven and Earth chess game set up by the throne. Everyone looked down in surprise. Many of them had never seen the Heaven and Earth chessboard before, but at least they had heard of it. This was because as long as one could solve this chess game, they would be accepted as a disciple by the king-level master and learn the 800 formations. As the eldest young master of the Tang family, Tang Jia had long been connected to various chess masters, but he had not found anything after studying them for a long time. Yunxiao's eyes were also filled with surprise. He was quite proficient in arrays, and the chess game below him was strange. It seemed that he could strike at any point, but at the same time, he could not strike at any point. Why haven't I heard him mention this Go arrangement before? Could it be something new? Yunxiao frowned and thought hard, only to find that his divine sense had fallen into it. He suddenly came back to his senses and broke out in a cold sweat. At this moment, everyone's body slowly fell to the ground. There were a total of 20 nodes on the chessboard that emitted a bright light, which was where they had landed. They were divided into black and white formations. Yunxiao, the two soul devourers, and the 7 from the Temple of Holy Fire made 10 people in total. On the other side, the four great demons, Tang Jia, Shen Feng, Che Shuyao, Feng Yi, Yuan Sun, and the nine-winged spirit serpent bird were also enveloped by 10 rays of light and descended. Furthermore, Yuan Sun had actually woken up at this moment, his eyes filled with extreme confusion. This is a chess piece. Yunxiao was horrified. He found that where the 20 people had fallen were the 20 most powerful formation eyes, which connected the entire chess game and the entire formation. Any mistake of any one of them could lead to an earth-shaking change in the entire chess game. Don't move. After Yunxiao's move, they represented the white pieces. Afraid that someone would make a rash move, he suddenly shouted. On the other side, the 10 people didn't dare to move after they landed. Che Shuyao tried to gather his rule force and found that he couldn't sense anything. At this moment, he was no different from an ordinary person, which made him feel extremely insecure. Big brother Yunxiao, what's going on? Even though Yi Fan did not understand the chess game, he could feel that the chess pieces were not normal. When they were linked together, they gave off a shocking aura. It was as if any small change would cause them to turn into dust. Don't move, everyone, Yunxiao said. I don't know the situation here, but I'm sure that if we take one step forward and cause the game to change, we'll all be dead. Li, what did you see? Shang asked. Li looked at the chess pieces, his eyes still filled with unconcealed shock. These chess pieces are actually made of star iron from outer space. No wonder they can set up such a celestial chess game. The killing intent in this situation was extremely heavy. It was as if every step was a dead game, and it was difficult to see any chance of survival. It'll be difficult for us to escape if we're trapped in it. Unless you can find the key to the game and solve it. Tang Jia's face was ashen as he said, solve it? Do you know how long this Go arrangement has been circulating on the continent? No one has ever managed to crack it. Feng Yi's eyes turned serious and he said in shock, is this the heaven and earth chessboard? I've only heard of it, but I've never heard of the killing intent hidden in this chess game. If you can't break out of this situation, it's hard to guarantee that you won't be annihilated in the end. But Go is divided into two colors, Che Shuyao said. If we break the game, what are they going to do? He pointed at Yunxiao and the others with a puzzled look. I understand, Li Dao said, this is not just a dilemma, but a double kill situation. The key to solving this should be to kill all of them. Otherwise, if you trigger the killing intent, the final result is likely to be all ashes and smoke. Feng Yi looked at Li with a strange look and seemed to be very interested in her origin. He nodded and said, you're right, this is a double kill game. Besides, we've lost all our strength, so we can only rely on our chess skills to kill them. There should be a chance of survival. Look carefully before you move, Li said with a frown. They were basically in the same boat as the two martial supremes now. The chess pieces were closely linked to one another. Any movement of qi would directly affect the key to victory and defeat, so they had to be extremely careful. A game of chess to decide life and death? Zhang Xiaotian's face was extremely ugly. He didn't know anything about these things, but he could still feel the vast power of the stars and the killing intent. He stood there, not daring to move. The atmosphere on the entire chessboard suddenly became strange. No one dared to make a sound, let alone move. Those who knew the Go manual began to think. Tang Jia, on the other hand, had a look of despair on his face. He had found many chess kings and masters for this heaven and earth chess game, and a few of them had even died from being possessed by the devil, but they had not been able to solve it. Feng Yi? Che Shuyao asked. You've done a lot of research on these things. It shouldn't be a problem to kill them all, right? Feng Yi looked worried and smiled bitterly. If it was a new game of chess, these pieces of trash would die even if they were 10 times more powerful. But this is an endgame, and the variables are difficult to predict. I've been watching for so long, but I haven't understood anything. I'm afraid that if I make a move, I'll die first. That's right, Li said. This chess game is too murderous. The one who moves first dies first. But since it's a trap, there must be a way to break it. The first to move will die. Zhang Xiaotian's face was gloomy. Li Yunxiao, how confident are you in solving this chess game? He found that his side was at an absolute disadvantage. Not only was Feng Yi of Myriad Stars Valley a world-famous beast tamer, but it was also a master of arrays, and the few great demons seemed to be well informed. On the other hand, except for Yun Xiao, who was a little mysterious, the rest of the people on his side seemed to be small characters. His heart sank to the bottom. Yun Xiao looked around. In addition to the killing intent in each step, the game was also full of changes. He had deduced dozens of moves in his mind, but each move gave rise to endless changes, and he could not see the future at all. If I'm given a year or so to study it, I might have some results, Yun Xiao said honestly. But I'm not sure if I can break it in a short time. Zhang Xiaotian's face sank, but he knew that he was telling the truth. If it was so easy to break, would it still be the heavenly game of countless chess kings on the continent? However, Yun Xiao suddenly smiled and said, I'm very confident that I can kill them with the help of the chess formation. As soon as his voice fell, the entire chess game fell silent, and a strong killing intent began to spread across the board, the source of which was Yun Xiao. He raised his middle finger and raised his hand high in the air to mock the others. You're 100% confident that you can kill us? Who is this kid? It's interesting to talk. Feng Yi couldn't help but laugh. Does this kid really know how to play chess? His eyes turned from mockery to coldness as he said, anyone with a bit of chess cultivation knows that this is a sure kill game where the one who moves first dies. Unless you can find the only correct path. The first to move will die first? Yun Xiao smiled, but his face instantly turned serious. He pointed his finger forward and said, 9 out of 13 fly. Yun Xiao raised his hand and pointed his finger. A star suddenly gathered in the sky and fell down with a whistling sound, turning into a white chess piece and falling on the spot he pointed at, emitting a dazzling light. As he placed this piece, the entire chessboard's aura underwent an earth-shattering change. The space on the chessboard that was originally parallel suddenly expanded upwards and downwards, forming a three-dimensional starry sky pattern. The 19 horizontal and vertical grid lines also crisscrossed and derived infinitely. It was as if the entire universe space had completely turned into a chess game. As the chessboard changed, the killing intent in the game also changed. At times, it was like a small bridge and flowing water, cool and refreshing, or like thousands of soldiers and horses, pressing down on them and making it difficult to breathe. Waves of chill enveloped everyone's hearts, as if they would completely disappear with a single movement. Didn't they say that the one who moved first would die first? How are they fine? Che Shuyao looked at the change of the game in horror. He felt as if his side had fallen into a great killing intent. Even he, who was a martial supreme, felt a chill in his heart. It had been a long time since he felt so powerless and at the mercy of others. Feng Yi and Li's faces also changed drastically. Yun Xiao's small flying corner seemed to be boring, dispensable, and had no effect on the battle, but the situation of the entire chess game had undergone a tremendous change. It was like a trigger that drew endless killing intent to the 10 of them. Zhang Xiaotian's reaction was the complete opposite of theirs. He only felt that the pressure had been lifted and his body relaxed. The people of the Hall of Holy Fire also felt relieved and looked at this huge change in surprise. How is it? Can we kill them now? Zhang Xiaotian hurriedly said. Staying in this place for a minute longer made him feel cold. Not so fast, Yun Xiao shook his head and said. It all depends on how fast they play. He was only afraid that they would refuse to move. He didn't know if there was a time limit in this space. If they refused to move for 10,000 years, they would be in deep trouble. However, from their expressions, the situation doesn't look good. The people in the black pieces were indeed starting to get nervous. The killing intent in the chess game was getting stronger and stronger. The cultivation of the great demons was the weakest, and their faces were starting to turn pale. No, we can't. Li was startled. If we don't make a move now, we'll be attacked by this killing intent and die in the chess game. She also raised her right hand high, her face full of panic and hesitation. Stop. Don't move. Feng Yi looked at Li's appearance and was shocked. He suddenly shouted, "One wrong step and you'll be doomed eternally. We must be extremely careful." Li looked at him coldly and said, "You have the cultivation of a martial supreme, so you can still hold on for an hour. However, the few of us are only martial grandmasters of the Six Directions realm. I'm afraid we will be annihilated in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Instead of that, why don't we have a son?" Feng Yi's pupils shrank, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. However, his cultivation was suppressed here, and he did not dare to move at all. He could only threaten loudly, "Hold on for as long as you can, or else I'll kill you all even if I leave this place." No one is allowed to move. Che Shuyao also shouted, "Follow our orders." Li's face changed slightly. She was not confident in her next move, so she turned to ask Shang for his opinion. Shang's face was calm, as if he was unmoved by the death trap before him. "When it's time to go down, just treat these two dogs barking as farts." "You coward." Feng Yi was furious, but when he saw Li's finger about to point out, he trembled in fear and suddenly said, "Stop. Even if you really want to go down, we can discuss where you plan to land." Li's hand stopped in midair and she hesitated. 16 out of 7. She couldn't make up her mind. If the situation didn't force her, she wouldn't have made a move. 16 of the 7. A look of surprise flickered in Feng Yi's eyes. Although this chess piece could not reverse the situation, it could resolve most of the killing intent brought by Yunxiao's small corner. It was indeed a good move. "Let's go with the second of 11, maybe it'll be better." Tang Jia, who had not spoken for a long time, suddenly spoke. Many of his bones had been broken by Yunxiao's punch. Although Li had helped him, his injuries had not recovered, and his face was pale. "Second of 11, Swan and I." Feng Yi and Li were both shocked at the same time and read it out. Their faces were filled with surprise and joy. If this move was played, it would be much more brilliant than what Li had thought. Not only could it dissolve the killing intent, but it could also turn defense into attack. "Boy, who are you?" Feng Yi was overjoyed. "Are you an expert in Go?" To be able to come up with such a move in such a short time, it was definitely not an ordinary person. He seemed to have seen the hope of escaping. Tang Jia cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Feng Yi, I am Tang Jia from the Tang family of the Four Extremes sect. I have also studied chess. However, compared to you, how can the candlelight compete with the bright moon?" He knew the identity of these two people and had the intention of befriending them. If he could establish a connection with Myriad Stars Valley, it would be of great help to him in his fight for the position of sect master of the Four Extremes sect. Tang Jia of the Tang family of the Four Extremes sect? I seem to have a tiny bit of an impression, Feng Yi frowned and said. He laughed. You're not bad, kid. You're of a high status and are full of talent. You can also be humble and polite. If you can help everyone get out of this predicament, I'll definitely remember this favor. Not bad. You and I can be friends. Che Shuyao added. Tang Jia was full of joy and repeatedly agreed. It was like a huge windfall for him to gain the favor of two martial sovereigns at once. However, he had to get out of this place alive first. He didn't have the slightest confidence in breaking this heaven and earth chess game, but if he just struggled to take a few steps forward and force his opponent into a dead end, he was still very confident. Seeing that no one had any objections, Li finally pointed his finger and shouted, the second of 11 charge. A star condensed directly in the space of the chess game, emitting a crystal-like light, and fell in the direction of her fingertip, turning into a black chess piece that exuded a powerful pressure that shook the hearts of Yunxiao and the others. The relaxed atmosphere suddenly became somber. The situation on the Go board was reversed in an instant. That biting cold chi had completely transformed in an instant. The white pieces seemed to have fallen into endless killing intent, layer by layer, and would die with a single move. The three martial royal realm experts from the Temple of Holy Fire, who had lower cultivation, began to shiver under this murderous intent. The cold air penetrated straight to their bones. Humph, brat, no matter how powerful your trump card is, no matter how strong your body is, this chess game is all about intelligence. Can your intelligence compare to mine? Looking at Yunxiao's pale face, Tang Jia could not help but burst into laughter with a smug look on his face. Zhang Xiaotian gritted his teeth and regretted not killing this person first. He knew that the situation was not good, so he did not dare to disturb Yunxiao's thoughts. He just waited quietly. Moreover, his cultivation was the highest among them, so he would be the one to last. It's a good move indeed. Yunxiao's eyes were filled with surprise and solemnness. He knocked his head a few times with a finger and muttered to himself, "This doesn't seem like a move that you can make with your intelligence. I have 3 ways to break your move, but which one can I use to force you into a desperate situation?" So conflicted. Tang Jia's expression changed. He snorted in disbelief, "What's the use of trying to argue? Can it save your life? If you have the ability, then come out and show this young master." His face was full of sarcasm. This move had been researched and developed by countless chess masters, but it still failed to break the heaven and earth chess game in the end. It was undoubtedly a great regret, but Tang Jia's understanding of the chess game was above everyone else present. 7, 9, 10 Luan. Yunxiao frowned as he kept deducing all kinds of changes in his mind, but he felt that it was endless and impossible to count them all. He even had a splitting headache and a sense of powerlessness. He sighed. "I don't care anymore. We'll take one step at a time. Let's see who dies first." He raised his hand and pointed forward, shouting, 3 out of 9 double. A white chess piece was condensed in the space of the chess game. It emitted the power of stars and fell toward the grid nodes in the space. It drew a long tail in the air and was very beautiful. Boom, boom, boom. There was a slight vibration in space as if this piece had triggered some kind of rule. The chess game changed greatly once more. The formation cores that were originally isolated seemed to be connected by this piece, creating a cycle with no beginning or end. This Xuanji is so chaotic. What's going on? Li was shocked and looked at the changes of the formation chess in front of her. She had a feeling of being overwhelmed and dazed. How could there be such a huge change? Just now, he was clearly about to force the other party to death, but with just one move, the order was reversed, and the universe was reversed. Feng Yi was even more dumbfounded. He was also a formation master, and he had never seen such a transformation before. He didn't even dare to think about it, but it was displayed in front of him one by one. It was completely beyond his common sense of formations. Tang Jia's mouth was also wide open, and he was a little at a loss. However, when the murderous intent that penetrated the heaven and earth rose in all directions, he shivered all over and hurriedly scratched his head, cold sweat oozing from his forehead. This time, it was the white stone's turn to breathe a sigh of relief. Yunxiao smiled lightly and said, "What's wrong? Did he not have enough intelligence? You seem to be in a hurry, do you want me to give you some hints?" "Don't gloat." Tang Jia's face turned red as he scolded, "Would you be so kind as to tell us how to get there?" "Not necessarily," Yunxiao said with a smile. "I don't think so." His eyes were filled with curiosity as he said, "I'm now very interested in this heaven and earth go arrangement. Your move just now was very wonderful, and I really want to see what your next move is. This change in the go arrangement is called Earth Fire Clear Barbarian. I wonder if you've heard of it." Everyone was stunned. In this life and death battle, he actually started to do research.